Hello everyone, Time to Grind here, and today I wanted to bring you guys the Time to Grind 2018 Game Awards, and I'm sure you guys have seen so many videos like this because it seems like everybody that talks about games or plays games has to make one of these videos, whether it be just a top 10 list of your favorite games or having different categories and, what's your favorite first-person shooter game, what's your favorite roguelike game, stuff like that. It seems like everybody's making one of these type of videos, but I'd say it's for a good reason. Making these types of videos is really cool because a lot of games come out in a year, and not only do I not have time to play every single game that comes out, obviously, but I don't even have time to play all of the games I want to play. So there's so many games where I picked it up, I played it, I had a lot of fun with it, and then I had to move on to another game because another game came out that took my interest and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun to look at all of the games that came out in 2018 and kind of rate them and see how they, stack up against each other and just bring back some memories of some games that I maybe haven't played in a while. And so what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to have a top 10 list of my favorite games in 2018, and then at the very end I'll have a little special thing with 3 different categories I made, but we'll get to that when we get to it. But to start us off at number 10, we have Pokemon Let's Go, and in particular I had the Pikachu version, and it's a little weird game. There's a couple issues I have with it. That is why it's number 10. It barely made it on the list. It's overall just really cool to see how Pokemon works in the Switch. There's a lot of new technologies. The game looks so much better than any other old Pokemon game. It's so cool to see the actual Pokemon in the overworld and everything like that. And there's a lot of issues I have with this game. Like, as an example, you cannot use your starter Pokemon. So if you have the Pikachu version, you can't use your Pikachu, and if you have the Eevee version, you can't use your Eevee, because the stats are so buffed because they're trying to make it, I guess, easier for casuals, that it makes the game mind-numbingly boring. So if you don't use your starters, there's actually, a decent challenge to be had, but you're kind of having to go out of the way and make your own rules. But I've had a ton of fun with it. I've probably spent about 20 to 30 hours in it. I'm still playing it. It's a really fun game, and it's really cool to just be introduced to what we're going to see in 2019 with the new Pokemon Generation 8 for the Switch. But we'll have to see what it is. Pokemon Let's Go is kind of a nice little sampler of that, and I've been enjoying myself with it a lot. So that's why it's number 10 on my list. Then at number 9, we have Vermintide 2, and I have so many mixed feelings with Vermintide 2, because when it first came out, my friends and I had a ton of fun. We played the crap out of it, and then a lot of Vermintide 2's issues kind of came to light. There were a lot of bugs, there were a lot of glitches, and they just decided to go, I guess, on holiday break after releasing the game, and so there was a long period of time where there was no new content, no really big updates to fix a lot of the things. There were some small bug fixes here and there, but the game itself is still really fun. I haven't personally played it in a little bit. I do want to go back to it now that it's been quite a while since it's come out, but it's a really fun game. If you played the original Vermintide, you'll know kind of it's just a better version of that. Kind of plays like a melee version of Left 4 Dead, and you have to get through a level, and the ragdoll physics are real cool. They're real satisfying. There's different classes, there's different gear and equipment and leveling up. It's a really cool thing to get into, and there's a lot of replayability value with the loot and the leveling up and skills and everything like that, and it's a lot of fun. It's just pretty, low on the list because of the fact that I personally had a lot of issues with it when it first came out, but I'd love to revisit it. It's a fun game though, and I'd still highly recommend you to get it. Number 8, we have Dead Cells, and Dead Cells is a game that I have personally played a ton of. I do think I need to go back because I haven't played much of it since it came out of early access. But it's just a spectacular roguelike game. There's so many unique things in Dead Cells. It kind of has like a little Metroidvania-ish feel to it in some parts, with how you unlock new parts of the area to discover, and the combat it feels so satisfying. It just feels good to play, and there's not many games that just feel so good to play, and Dead Cells is one of them. It's also a roguelike game, and that's like one of my favorite genres of all time, so makes sense why it's making it on this list. But overall, Dead Cells, pretty fun game. Then at number 7, we have Jackbox Party Pack 5, and I feel like every time, because they make these games once a year, most of the time these are going to be somewhere on my list, because Jackbox with my group of friends is a miracle. Because when you have a ton of people over at your house or apartment or whatever, and you have 8 people, it's a little hard to play more traditional games like, you know, you say you want to play some local multiplayer games like Mario Party or Duck Game as one of my favorite local multiplayer games, but it's kind of hard because not only do you have to have the right amount of people to play those games, but you have to have the controllers, you have to have everything set up, everything's got to work properly, no issues. Jackbox, you just put it on, whether you're, you know, I have it on Steam, so I just use the Steam link, or just put it up on my laptop and just connect my laptop HDMI wise to my TV and just play it, and everybody just gets on their phone, because everybody has a phone, of course, as Blizzard would like you to know, and they're just always fun. And Jackbox Party Pack 5 has a bunch of really cool, unique ones. I think one of the ones that my friends personally have absolutely loved is, it's called like Mad City Verse or Rap City Verse. It's pretty much where it's kind of like Mad Libs, and you put in your answers, and then you have these text-to-speech robots that do rap battles against each other, and it's really, really fun. So if you haven't played a Jackbox game personally, I would say 3 might be the best, but 5 came out this year, and it is still a ton of fun, and that is why it is on my list. But highly recommend it, especially for kind of more casual environments like that. At number 6, we have Into the Breach, and I actually forgot about Into the Breach because it came out a lot earlier in this year, but it is made by the people that made FTL. It's another fantastic, unique game. I have never played a game it's such a unique concept. I have not played a game like it. It kind of plays a little bit like chess in terms of the combat, because you know where your enemies are going to attack, and then you have to move around. It's just really cool. It has a lot of the aspects of FTL in terms of the kind of like roguelike progression, and there's a lot of stuff like that, but it's just such a unique game, and it's such a deep strategy game, and it's unique. I mean, the art style is unique, the music's unique, the gameplay is super, super unique, and I think it definitely deserves a spot on the top 10 games of 2018, so that's why I put it on there. Number 5, I have Celeste, and Celeste, I personally have not played as much as I want to. It's kind of a game that keeps getting put on the back burner, but I have played it for a couple of hours, and I absolutely adore it. It's such a fun platformer game. The music is amazing. I love the way the art style is. Just the gameplay, it's kind of like in terms of Dead Cells, it just feels good to play. Everything feels good about it. It's a platformer, and the platforming feels spectacular. It feels smooth and responsive, and the level design and the different like worlds you play on are each unique, and it's cool to see, okay, what is the theme of this level going to be, and every kind of level has their own little mechanics that you have to learn, and it introduces it to you real well, and then it gets harder and harder with those mechanics, and then sometimes it stacks mechanics on it. It kind of takes a lot of lessons, I think, from what Nintendo does, especially with the Mario series, where, you know, a lot of the levels will be completely unique, and there will be mechanics in certain levels that you just straight up do not see in other levels at all, and they kind of introduce the mechanics to you, and then they get harder and harder and harder with the mechanic, and then sometimes they overlap mechanics. But Celeste is a great game. It's also a really good game to speedrun. Speedrunning for Celeste is really huge, so I'd recommend watching some of that. It's insane to see how fast and good people are at the game. But overall, great game. Number 5 on my list. Then at number 4, we have Lethal League Blaze, and I did make a video about Lethal League Blaze actually earlier this year, kind of a review video, and it is just spectacular. If you've played the original Lethal League, it's just a better version of Lethal League in every single way. The new art style looks amazing. A lot of the songs have been remastered. It's so, so good. It's satisfying. It's just one of those games that it makes you feel so good. Like, you feel like a badass every time you do something in that game, and it's just such a unique fighting game. I mean, there's absolutely no fighting game like it on the market besides the original Lethal League, and there's not much more to say about it besides it's a great, unique fighting game that just feels great to play. Then at number 3, gonna have a little bit of controversial pick, but we're gonna put down Artifact. I know there's been a lot of issues, there's a lot of controversy at launch, and I personally think Valve has fixed a lot of them, but the core gameplay of Artifact just, it works for me. It's so in-depth. There's so much you can do, and the fact that I'm having this much fun, it's easily been sucking up most of my time recently. It's just been straight dedicated to Artifact because I like the core gameplay so much. And I just cannot wait to see what future expansions bring and what Valve brings to the table in the future. I'm just really excited, not only for how much fun I'm having right now with the base set, but like if I'm having so much fun with the base set, I can't wait to see how much fun I'm gonna have with expansions. And obviously they could make the game worse and stuff like that, but just it's been spectacular for me. And I know some people haven't enjoyed it. Some people personally, there's a lot of controversies, especially with the payment model, but the core gameplay for me just works, and it's so good, and I love it. Then at number 2, we have Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And I feel like most people are somehow going to have to include this on their list somewhere because it's the new Smash game. I mean, you can't not put it on your top 10 list if you actually enjoy Smash, but it's just easily one of my favorite Smash games. The only one that maybe would compete would be Melee, but even then, I've never been super into Melee. And Ultimate is just spectacular. So many characters. All of the characters feel pretty well balanced. The game runs well, it looks well, it feels well, it sounds well, and it's Smash game. I mean, you know what Smash is, and it works perfectly for party. So you have 8-player Smash, everybody just takes a Joy-Con, and you just have fun with 8-player Smash chaotic, or you can do 1v1 super competitive, no items, everything like that. It caters for 2 completely different things, and it almost feels like it's 2 games in one, because I personally love getting super competitive. I love doing 1v1s, whether it's online with friends or going to tournaments and stuff like that. I love the concept of how competitive a Smash game can be, but then on the flip side, it's a completely different game when you're playing 8-player Smash with items and with stage hazards on and everything. It's a completely different game, and they're both super fun experiences, and for that to be in one package has to put it up on that list so high. And then for my favorite game of 2018, and this will be a surprise to a lot of people, is Gris. And Gris is an indie game that came out recently. It was just December, so a lot of people might not have even had the chance to play it. And it's not a game I can really describe that well. It's one of those games, short and sweet. It's about 2 to 3 hours. I think it took me like 2.8 hours to beat the game. And it's one of those games where you can't really explain it. It's an experience that you just have to experience for yourself. And I know that's a little disappointing because I'm putting something at the top of my list of favorite games of 2018, and I can't even really describe it that well, but just trust me, if you've heard anything about it, I'm sure, like, you look on Steam, the reviews, it's like 98% overwhelmingly positive. Just don't watch any reviews of it, don't watch any synopsises of it, just play the game without knowing anything about it, and it's about 2 to 3 hours, it's a short and sweet game, and you will love it. I mean, it made me feel emotions that I did not know I had, and it's just so spectacular. So those are my top 10 games of 2018. And keep in mind, there are a lot of games that I know people absolutely love that are not on my list, like this new Spider-Man game, the new God of War game. Those games are fantastic, but I have not played them, mainly because I am a PC gamer. I have a PS4, but I don't use it really at all. I have like Rock Band on it and Little Big Planet 2, and I think those are the only games. So there are a lot of games I know that probably deserve to be on a top 10 list, but just keep in mind, this is my top 10 list of games that I have played this year, because I haven't played every single game, and I haven't played a lot of exclusives like on the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One. So just keep that in mind, but I would love to hear your guys' top 10s in the comments down below. But before we end this video, I wanted to do something special, because there's a couple games that I really wanted to talk about that technically did not come out in 2018. So I decided to make 3 little categories just so I could talk about some stuff. And the first category is the best example of early access done right in 2018, and that goes to Slay the Spire. So there's a lot of games that come out in early access, and early access kind of is almost a bad word in today's gaming industry, because there's so many examples of early access done terribly. You got DayZ as an example. It finally came out of early access, like 7 years after it went into early access, and even then it's still terrible. So there's a lot of examples of stupid, greedy devs not doing early access the way it's supposed to be, and it really makes all of early access look bad. And then you have gems like Slay the Spire, which show how good early access can be for certain games and certain circumstances. And Slay the Spire, I have gushed on it before. It is one of my favorite games just of all time, honestly. It's one of my favorite roguelike games. It almost is beating out Binding of Isaac for me, but it's just so unique. It's a deck building roguelike, which personally I haven't played before Slay the Spire, and just every week a huge update. And I mean, they have constantly put in more content than they even expected to, because Slay the Spire kind of blew up, and for good reason. It's a spectacular game, and it's coming out of early access in January, so there's going to be a price increase there. So a little slight disclaimer, go get Slay the Spire before that happens if you have not already. And it's a spectacular game. There's so much content into it. The devs are spectacular. They respond to feedback. It's fantastic, and they truly have been the best example of early access in 2018, if not just in general. You know, not only in 2018, but just, I would say they're one of the best examples of early access ever. But that's that. Then I wanted to go into my category of best ongoing games. So there's a lot of games nowadays that are live services, and you know, they're trying to just keep the game as a service so they don't have to keep making new games. They can kind of just keep monetizing a single game. So there's a lot of games that technically did not come out in 2018 but still got a ton of content and still has a ton of players and stuff like that. And my best game for that would be Rainbow Six Siege. And I haven't played Rainbow Six Siege in a little bit, but I have played it a ton this year, especially earlier in the year. And it's just a game that, you know, I don't agree with a lot of the things Ubisoft does, and it does feel like they are attempting to kill Rainbow Six Siege every now and then. Some of the decisions they make are so stupid, but overall Rainbow Six, I would say, is one of the best examples of a live service game. There's constantly new operations, which have 2 new operators and a new map, and there's balance patches. Not as much as I would like for there to be, but there are a ton of them, and it does feel like the game just keeps getting better and better and better, not only just for playing it, but in esports. The esports side of it has just blown up, and it deserves all of it. And then my last category is the most disappointing game of 2018, and that would be Islands of Nine for me. And I've talked about Islands of Nine before. I've made a couple videos on it. It was this amazing concept of a battle royale, that it was going to be this battle royale with good gunplay. And it came out in early access, and it had good gunplay, but there were so many issues with it. It ran pretty poorly, honestly, and it was so bad for casual players, and they monetized it incorrectly. It really should have been free to play or way cheaper than what it was. Player base died very fast. They kept trying to revive it, and they just recently announced that they're shutting down Islands of Nine. And it's just, I was so hyped for it for probably about a year before the game came out. I was so excited to finally be able to play a battle royale game that had good gunplay, and you know, not anymore, unfortunately. But overall, those are my top 10 games. Those are my games for those 3 categories I said. But I would love to hear your guys'. It's just, maybe even if you don't want to do a top 10 list, just tell me what your favorite game of 2018 was in the comments down below. I would love to hear them all. And if you guys enjoyed this video, then consider leaving a like down below and subscribing to see more content. New videos come out every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. And like always, guys, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day.